LeBron James, Michael Jordan, all of them come through what is called the Haywood versus the NBA, a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, which was ruling in my favor. That's when I was cut loose and I could play. We allowed our men to go to war in Vietnam. We're killing our kids off up there at age 18. They can do all of these things at a young age, but yet they can't make a living for themselves. We are going to pass this under the Sherman Antitrust Act that Spencer Haywood can play basketball. And from that ruling alone, it's been over $60 billion in players' revenue, players' salaries generated for all of these Black and European families now that are benefiting from that.
Did that have a great impact on all the things that you did after that? Like starting, you had to get back to America. And like they asked Jesse what it was like when he got back to America. Jesse was talking to you about what it was going to be like when you got back. Did what you witnessed in '68 in Mexico City, what immediate effect did it have you once you got back over on this soil?
Well, it changed my whole concept of what I was supposed to do. And, like my mother was always, you stand up for something, boy. You stand up for something or you fall for anything, blah, 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 blah. On the Mississippi. But now here it is. I'm like confronted with it because Howard Cosell, well, they don't like you in Detroit. And I heard you sign with the University of Detroit to come back to Detroit and play. And that's going to be trouble when you arrive there. What you think about that? And I was like, I don't know. So we fly into Detroit at Metro Airport, and we think, Will Robinson was with me. He said, it's going to be trouble. Let's just walk clearly and see what they're going to do. Because we thought the Blacks were going to protest me and all of the things that went down in '68. We're getting ready for a riot. And, it was like tension in the air. I arrived in Detroit, the plane land, we get it off and walking through the airport and I'm getting my bags and all my stuff. And we walk outside, there's Black folks, white folks, everybody, champion, champion. And I was like, me? And the mayor and the governor and everybody. And I was like, wow, this is big. And
so it was kind of the exact opposite of what you were told was going to happen to you.
I was told was going to happen. It was the total opposite. And so it was beautiful. And then I saw one of the guys that was in the thing. I was like, oh my God, there's Melvin Franklin from the Temptations. And that's when we got to be friends, starting that day, from that day on, because they were always saying, well, come on over to Motown, listen to some sounds and stuff. And I would go over there and when I was in college and just hang out. And then they would come over to my games because we played at the University of Detroit and me and Big Bob Lanier, the big showdown in Motown. It was just great. And then Tommy and John was on tour. They came into the game. So I snatched the backboard, broke a backboard. I dunked so hard.
I heard about that. I didn't know if that was true or not, but I heard about that. So
that was some true stuff, man. I jumped over this guy's head. I was flying and I just came down with the force of the cotton field. Bam! The backboard popped and we was like, whoa! So we had 3 minutes to go. They said, we don't have a replacement. We didn't have replacement backboards back then. The game is over. And Bob Callahan was worried, oh, we're going to forfeit a game. We up by 60. The NC2A said, no, man, y'all won that game. So it was just a beautiful time at the university. And then, of course, Will Robinson was going to get the coaching job the next year at the University of Detroit as the first Black coach. And they reneged on that deal. And that's when I first met Hannah Storm's father, Mike Storm, who was with the ABA as a public relations person doing all of the service for the ABA. They had tried real hard to get Kareem to sign with the ABA for a large sum of money instead of going to Milwaukee to the Bucks, and Kareem signed with the Bucks. And I was the outstanding college player behind Kareem that year. They came to me and said, we got an offer for you. And I was like, real money, huh? I'm going to be able to get my mother out of this cotton field, because at that time my mother's back had gone. So she was crawling through the cotton field, picking cotton. And so that's when I said, I'll sign the contract. And then they said, well, you know who we have as a coach? We have your old Olympic coach, and the great John McLendon, first black coach out of uniform to coach, because you had Lenny and you had Bill Russell before that, I think.
Yeah.
No, you didn't have Lenny
Lenny
before
was
that,
there. I
but
know.
you had Bill
Billy
Russell.
done his work he started off as here. Billy done his, but I don't think Lenny was there yet.
Who's
I don't
that
think
now?
Lenny was coaching Seattle.
No, Lenny
coaching
wasn't. It was
Seattle at
Bill
that time,
Russell.
you're right.
Yeah, he wasn't the coach yet. And so
you come to the Denver Rockets, which are now the Denver Nuggets at that time.
I come to Denver, man. I was like, I'm coming back home. I was up the street at Trinidad. You remember?
Right.
I'm an Olympian from Colorado.
Right. So you come in your rookie year, and you have, in my opinion, the greatest rookie year anybody has ever had in any kind of basketball.
Well, that's three of us.
Okay, tell me who.
Okay, Jim Brown was the MVP and Rookie of the Year. Wes Unseld was MVP and Rookie of the Year, and then I was the
No, you didn't let me finish.
MVP
I was going to say
and Rookie of the Year.
basketball.
But I got one more than them
You-
when I was
All-Star
the
game.
MVP of the All-Star.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, I know my history, Spencer. So okay. So greatest rookie year in basketball anybody has ever had. Okay. Denver Rockets. Okay. What was Denver like in those days? I understand, I've read that you used to hang out in 5 Points a little bit when you were here.
The point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the points were my place, man. I used to go down and listen to, because a lot of jazz cats were coming to Denver to chill out. I mean, from heroin, coke, whatever else they were going through. And they would come to Denver for the altitude and to kind of clean out. And so they had all these jazz clubs were sitting in the points,
Right.
And I caught Cedar Walton, I caught Big John Patton. I mean, I was catching all of the greats at the points. And then you had Big Dr. Daddy-O, who was talking a
Daddy-O.
lot of stuff on the
Dr.
radio.
Daddy-O.
You had that pink caddy. Oh,
Was
man.
that what was that? KDKO? Or was that before KDKO?
Yeah, KDKO,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
On AM. On AM.
AM, thank you, LeBron.
Yeah,
You're on AM.
AM. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And so we had all that was going on, and then one of the players from the Rocket earlier period, he had a club called the 23rd Street East. Wayne Hightower, who played with Kansas and had played in the ABA, played with Denver as well. He had a club there, and they had me and this guy would always have a problem getting in because we were underage. One of the guys that was singing with Howard Beaumont in his group was Philip Bailey. Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Right.
He was my age, so we were both like, we ain't 21, we can't get in. And so Wayne would let us come in the back door, and he would sing on stage and then usher him right back out. And I would sit in the back and just listening to the sounds. And so that was our joint, man, hanging out at the 23rd Street East. And then I hooked up later on with, this is outside of basketball. This is with, what's his name? He became a shock jock later, and they killed him. The white supremacists killed him.
Alan Bird.
Alan Bird, yeah. We started a little company called the Shirt Broker in Larrabee Square.
Okay.
He was making shirts and stuff like that. And so I had just a wonderful time listening to the music and just hanging out in Denver. And we were playing some serious ball. We had this one guy on the team who John McLendon brought in from Central State. His name is Lonnie Lynn, Sr.
I know.
Not junior.
I know his son very well. we know his
Okay,
son
then.
very, very well.
So Lonnie Lynn was playing with us, and he was sort of like my protector. And Lonnie Wright was another player that was kind of on the protection side for me because I was this rookie and they were, every time we played other men, it was like they was going to break his back. And so Lonnie Wright was playing with the Denver Broncos during football season. And when he finished, he would move over to us as one of the guards with Larry Jones on our starting guards. And Lonnie Lynn would come in and spare me and he would protect me. And so later on, when he had his son, Lonnie Lynn Jr., he says, I want you to be his godfather. So to this day, I am Common's godfather. That's Common, the rapper. Yeah, that's his father. So we were all in Denver, man, playing ball and having a great time.
When you were with the Rockets,
so,
who was the best player you played against?
Rick Barry.
Rick Barry? Okay.
Yeah.
And the best one you played with?
Boy, man.
Who did you play with?
Oh, played with? Oh, Larry Jones.
Larry Jones, the best.
On that team.
Okay. So
Larry Jones was the best there. Yeah. Let me tell you about what happened with Denver. Okay. So I had this great year, and the Rockets owner, Ringsby, because, Ringsby was Ringsby Truck Line. He was a trucker. So he says, come on in, I'm going to give you a new contract. And he gave me a contract for 1.9. I had no agent, no lawyer, nothing. I just trusted everybody. It was like, wow, this is great stuff. I had this great year. So I signed the contract. And then finally I'm on the road in Panama with Emmett Bryant, all of the NBA players. We would have an exhibition there because Roberto Duran's buddy, Bala, was Enrique, was having an exhibition in Panama. So I went down with them, me, John Brisker, some of the other guys. And I was bragging about my contract. Boy, Scoop, I got 1.9 million, bro. I'm rich.
Right. You like Dave Chappelle right now. You rich.
You
rich. Exactly.
So Archie Clark said, man, let me see that contract. And I was like, hey, man, here's the contract. So Archie was like a clubhouse lawyer with the NBA and playing with Baltimore and also later on with me in Seattle. But Archie and Tom Hoover, like, man, this contract looked fraudulent to me. And I was like, oh, man, I got to get back to Denver and get this thing correct. So I hired this new attorney, this new Jewish attorney named Al Ross. So we go in, we need to correct this contract here because see here in line 4, you're saying that you don't have to put up the 1.9. You're going to put that money in a dog off plan on Wall Street where you put $10,000 up and I am to receive the 1.9 when I get to age 50 to age 70 if this money turns into the 1.9 million over these years. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So Ringsby said, okay, what do y'all want? And I was like explaining that we need to change the contract. Just give it to me in money, let me I had this great year for the league. I've enhanced, we had television, we had everything for the ABA because of what I had did in the Olympics and now with the ABA. And he says, well, you know what? I don't have to do anything because you can't go back to college. You can't go to the NBA. You're just shit out of luck. And so Al jump in. All right, now look, we have to correct this, sir. And he said, what the hell did you get this fucker from? He said, let me tell you something, Spencer. And Al, you get your black nigger ass out of my office and take that Jew ass lawyer with you. Wow. I ain't doing nothing. And that's when we said, oh my God, the real color then jumped out. And so Sam Schulman, who owned the Seattle Supersonics, they had gotten the expansion teams was Seattle and Phoenix. Jerry Colangelo says, we're going to raid the ABA and we're going to get their players because they're raiding the NBA. because players were jumping back and forth from both leagues. So he went and got the MVP before me was Connie Hawkins. And Sam Shulman said, I own the next MVP. And so it's like an unwritten law in the NBA. So but I'm an underclassman. I still got 1 more year left in college. So I signed with Seattle and we get ready to play and I'm getting ready to get on the floor. They slammed me with an injunction. It was like, he's an underclassman. He can't play. And Sam Shulman, I'm going to play him. I'm going to play him. I promised the kid I'm going to play him. And then I was out for 10 games because the injunction read I couldn't play for 10 games. Then as we maneuvered through the court system, I then got an injunction for the next 10 games. And when I walked out on the floor, I was like, yeah, I can play now. And the announcer was like, ladies and gentlemen, we have an illegal player on the floor, number 24, and this game is being played under protest. For the next 10 games, he's a protest player. And so they would like throw things. I mean, get him out of here, go back to college, get away. And so it just went on that year like that. And then we finally get to Cincinnati and they have another injunction. And I'm still in the district court. And they put me out into the snow. They said, ladies and gentlemen, he cannot play tonight. We must put him out of off the grounds in which this arena set on. So they put me out into the snow. So I nearly froze out there. And I was going through all kinds of chill. And so it was over and I got on the bus later and moved on to the next round. And then they got a 10-day injunction, of course, 10 games that I had to sit down. Then I played in Chicago. I'm playing against this great Chicago Bulls. You got Chet Walker, Tom Bowinkle, Norm Van Leer, Bob Love, Jerry Sloan. Yeah, it was balling. It was real balling, man. They had a squad. So I'm down there warming up on the other end. And Chet Walker, because the ownership of the Bulls, they thought they should have had me with the 1 year after this. So they said, we're going to sue him for $600,000 because he hurt Chet Walker's leg, his ankle, because Chet claimed he had hurt his ankle in the warm-up. So the next morning I get up in the newspaper and we get ready to get on the bus. Lenny said, well, you owe him another $600,000. So Chicago Bulls sued me for $600,000. So we maneuver all the way up to the Supreme Court. And we get to the Supreme Court, and so I'm playing in Baltimore, so I want to go up and hear the case a little bit, see what they're talking about. And man, our boy, what's his name, the Black Justice, Thurgood Marshall, was running it. He was like, we're asking our young man to go to war in Vietnam, but yet this man can't make a living. And not only that, but you got like tennis, hockey, baseball, all of the non-revenue sports.
Yeah, Spencer. Let me put it in context because I don't want our audience to to miss this. Okay, prior to you getting to the Supreme Court, okay, in order to be admitted into the NBA, you had to be 4 years out of high school. I got that right?
Correct.
Okay,
correct. Yes,
you
sir.
could not enter the NBA. There was a rule that prohibited you from entering the NBA until you were 4 years out of high school. Okay, so then you get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rules on this landmark decision that allows everybody that comes behind you, okay, to be able to come into the NBA, not only the NBA, but it's used in other sports as well as we
NCAA, football, NFL,
everywhere. Okay, so that
with a modified version.
Right.
Yes.
So that's important that our audience understand that this case changed it, where Magic Johnson, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum, all of these great players could come into the league early as opposed to later. I just don't want anybody to miss that. But go ahead, where you were, Spencer.
Yeah. LeBron James, Michael Jordan, all of them come through what is called the Haywood versus the NBA, U.S. Supreme Court ruling, which was ruling in my favor. That's when I was cut loose and I could play. And that was a new day. But he explained it that we're allowing our men to go to war in Vietnam. We're killing our kids off up there at age 18. They can do all of these things at a young age, but yet they can't make a living for themselves. And this man has a mother in Silver City, Mississippi. It ain't no city, and it ain't no silver, but making $2 a day. We are going to pass this under the Sherman Antitrust Act that Spencer Haywood can play basketball. And from that ruling alone, it's been over $60 billion in players' revenue, players' salaries generated for all of these Black and European families now that are benefiting from that. And, because I did sue the NBA, so my name is not on my ruling, not like the Larry Bird rule, which is a modified version of my ruling, and the Oscar Robertson rule. Those are the other two rules, but my name is not on my ruling. So we are looking to, Adam Silver seemed to be a good dealer, a good person to deal with. So he's saying that once all of this stuff is over with, the collective bargaining and television stuff, we're going to put your name on it so the players will know, because they just don't know who I am. They have no idea. And when I go to the games, they always are whistling, "Hey, man, who is that guy? Why are people coming up to him and stuff?" So here we go. We'll move forward to winning time.
I want to ask you more questions just about this. Did it feel at that time that you were moving from one form of slavery to an elevated form of slavery because of the control that? Did you ever feel that? Because you came from a world where you actually experienced what slavery was like at that time. And now you're moving into another controlled version of, people telling you what they can and cannot do with your life, with your career, and they didn't give a damn about it. You know what I'm saying? Did it feel like you were moving from one form to the other and all?
Well, I felt it and I knew it, but I was, I had been thoroughly told by Will Robinson and the great judges and lawyers in Detroit, whatever you do, don't make no hay. Don't say shit. So I had a zip on it. I was not.
Same thing you kind of had to deal with back in Mississippi, though. Like, don't say anything to the, to the owner on the porch. Same thing, right?
Identical thing. If you want to go that deep, it was identical. So it was that kind of thing, and I was the perfect candidate for it. Rick Welts, who was our ball boy in Seattle at the time, who later became 5-time champions with the Golden State Warriors, he was our ball boy. And so I was doing an interview with him, and he was like, "Boy, you were perfectly suited for that case," because I had lived it in Mississippi. So all of the things that they did to me to throw the case off, the NC2A had people, spies out, and they would hit me in the hallways in my stomach, and I would like ball up and say, it's okay, I'm not fighting back. Because if I had just said something back, then the case would have been thrown out. So he was talking about how I was perfectly suited for it by coming from Mississippi. So that was it. And here I am in the NBA playing, and all of these players are making all of this money. And so here I am. They have the 75th anniversary of Kareem being born, 75, and at the Lakers. So they celebrating Kareem. Kareem invited me down and Magic. And come on, man, hang out with us some more, Since you messed up our shit in 80, we would have had 7 championships. Okay, guys, don't beat me down. Anyway, so we're hanging out on the floor, and I'm trying to figure out why these players, LeBron and all of them, are like, Wood. I was like, what's going on? And Kareem said, that damn winning time. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, you got to watch it closer, man. They told the players who you are in this series. I thought it was so bad. I was like, I can't watch it. I can't. And then I went back and watched it, and I was like, oh, that's why these young guys, because both OKC and all of the Lakers were like stopping on me in the hallway. Thank you, man, and stuff. And I was like, what's going on? Because I never had that feeling of that euphoric feeling from players, of joy. And LeBron was like, man, you did it for us all. And I was like, how do you know? Winning time, man.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story how God worked. What I thought was going to be the worst thing in my life that ever happened in this HBO series turned out to be the best.
Sure.
And from there, movies, being brought up in my another movie is being created now about my life story and the whole case and everything else.
So Spencer, so
God, God is
let's get this on
a miracle.
How accurate was the portrayal of you in Winning Time?
Perfect.
So everything was
and they had a great actor. Even though he's from Chicago, and I know we got some Chicago
Wood's my
people.
man now.
Yeah,
Wood's
watch
my man
it.
now. Come on, Wood's my man.
Okay, I'm just saying.
All right.
So Wood Harris did an incredible job. I mean, he didn't let it get out of hand, which, sometimes directors and everybody wanted to make it something else, but he kept it in check. Rodney Burns kept it in check. And they treated my story with dignity, even though I had fallen with the substance abuse that year, but they treated it with dignity. And the nice part about it is when they had Kareem being that salvation, because he was my salvation when I went through the Supreme Court and I came back and was on the floor when players would stay in the locker room. Kareem didn't go in the locker room. He stayed up top and embraced me when I came out of the Supreme Court. And that opened the door for all of the Players Union, the Players Association, the NBA Players Association. So the guys embraced me, and then they took my dues.
Sure.
I couldn't pay my dues before.
Hey, Lamont, tell them the story.
Yeah. I mean, I played high school basketball. I mean, he's obviously younger than you, but you probably would have crossed paths with him a little bit in the NBA. Ron Brewer Sr., who was drafted to Portland and ended up playing in Cleveland. And then the way that I got into this business as a college graduate, John Drew, who was a 2010 guy for the Atlanta Hawks back in the day, asked me to start helping him with marketing and stuff. Well, John's story is that he got caught up in substance abuse, so on and so forth. So what I was going to
we got out of it.
So what I was going to share with you is that at that time it was pervasive in the league. Okay, it was this.
I would think about 80.
Yeah,
about 80%.
I mean, everybody was doing.
John Drew, I can't let you step over John.
Okay. That's why I'm in this business. Go ahead.
Okay, well, John Drew was one of the greatest players to play in the NBA. Nobody know who he is.
Right.
But this guy could ball, straight out ball with the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, my God. He was a 25-7.
No, he's a
small forward.
Yeah. He actually would average 10.
So when I talk to Dominique Wilkins, he always say, John Drew.
They were traded on draft day.
You're too young to know about John.
They were traded on draft day, 1-for-1 trade. John went to Utah, and that's how I lost touch with him. And Dominique was drafted in Utah. They brought him to Atlanta.
They brought him to Atlanta.
Yeah. But that, John went through the same thing. And so tell our audience about the struggle. You now have been, I read, sober for 35 years now. Tell us about the struggle.
No, it's been 40. It's been 39 years. Yeah. And what happened was, at that time, I was married to Iman, a very high fashion model. At that time, was one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Wait. Stop. How'd you pull that off? That's what. How'd you pull that off, man? Come on now. You talking about stepping over John? No, I want to know how'd you pull that one off?
Yeah.
Look.
Please tell me too.
Appreciate that, because I was there when Rick Fox got married to Vanessa Williams. Now he's, we're like, all right, man, how'd you pull that off? But wait, I want to know how'd you pull this off? Come on, man.
Well, I was with the Knicks. She had just came in from Somalia, from East Africa, and she was in New York. And I had just got to New York from a trade from Seattle. So we were like out having dinner with friends. And I kept looking at this girl like, wow, she's so pretty. Nice lady too. And so she was looking at me the same too. And I was like, hey, what you gonna do, sister? So we started going out, and the next thing you know, we were married and had a wonderful daughter, Zuleika, but she couldn't keep her hands off of me. That's the only problem.
Is that what it was?
No,
Lamont, he got to her before anybody else did. That's all it was.
Right.
He was the
Yes,
right
there
brother,
he
the
was.
first
Right.
brother. That's
He
all
said,
it was.
I'm not waiting. That.
So,
All right, so go on, man. I'm sorry. You go back with you. I just had to ask you that.
We had to get that out.
Right.
yeah. And so what happened was when I went through my crisis with the Lakers, being that the fashion industry had been dealing with mental health and addictions and so on for years. And so she said, well, I know you don't want to do it, but you got to go and get treatment. I was like, treatment? Oh, nothing wrong with me. It's everybody else. It's not me. And so she's talked me into going to see this psychologist, and I'm in there and I'm talking about what happened in the case. And I'm talking about my childhood in Mississippi. And I walked out of there, I felt like so relieved. And then I'm like, what, next week, I can't wait to get to it. So it started with that process. And then I went to a treatment facility in Northern California in Marin County. And I stayed there for 28 days. And then I did another 28 days because this guy came over who was doing an open talk, says, well, I know who's not going to make it in the real world is Spencer. And I was like, hey, watch out, man. It was a brother because I had been with all the other therapists was mixed. So I said, hey, I can do your program. I went over to Oakland and did another 28 days. And then he suggested that I go make a journal and go from where I started in Mississippi. So I drive back to Silver City, Mississippi, stops along the way, going to 12-step meeting a lot of hillbillies and everybody, And so I get to Silver City and I'm sitting on the bank of the river where I used to pick garbage and food and everything out of the garbage dump. And I'm thinking, what the hell happened, man? So then my new wife came in later on, but we were like I was into this black movement in Detroit, and they were like, you need to go to Africa, bro. So I said, yeah, I'm going with Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, and Aswa Kwesi. So I traveled throughout Africa learning about my history and who I am and what was going on. In the meantime, Iman and I was getting ready for a divorce, and she was like, you got clean, you got yourself straight, you got your history all in order. So I'm still working. You always said that, whoever was working, well, if we ever had the divorce, and it was like in our 12th year, so we said, well, who would take care of the child? And I said, I'll take care of her. My family's in Michigan. She can come and take care of me and her. So we started out that way, co-parenting that way and working on my 12-step program. And so my next daughter, not number 2, but number 3, because I have 4 daughters. So number 3 decided she would go to me with when I would go to see my mental therapy. She would go and sit outside like the kids playing. And she saw me coming out and said, oh God, he's so well when he come out of here. And so she decided, I think that's what I want to be in life. So she's now a major psychiatrist in the city of New York and working with the Players Association as well. And that's how my whole life just changed in that process with history, therapy, and I changed a lot of things, my diet, a lot of things that I just changed and explored the world that's ahead of me. And I got involved with the Players Association, the NBA retired players, where we didn't have health insurance. And before I even got there, I went to Chris Paul and said, man, he was the head of the union. I said, man, our guys don't have health insurance. he talked with LeBron
You're
James,
talking about
Steph Curry, and
retired
those
players. I
guys.
just want to be clear. We're talking about
The retired
Right.
players didn't have health
Right.
insurance, but we was asking the young players, could they help us out? And so I just threw a number out, like, I want the same health insurance y'all got. And they came back and said, guess what? You got it. Y'all guys got the same health insurance we got. It's only going to cost us $16 million a year. No big deal. And we was like, whoa. And at the same time, Nate Archibald needed a heart transplant, and he got his heart transplant. Different guys was getting hip replacement, knee replacement, and it just saved so many lives. And so that's sort of like the journey,
Yeah,
man.
no.
The recovery has been awesome. It's been beautiful for me, And I preach about it. I don't preach about it, but I talk to people about it. I'm openly, and like I said, the winning time has opened up a lot of doors in the sense that people want to hear my story and talk about it like you guys are doing. It's just been an awesome time in my life. And then last year, everything was going really great. And that's when I lost my wife, my last wife of 36 years. And so I'm here all alone with my girls coming in and out, checking on me. But God is good.
Always good. Always good. Come back to
Always.
real quick on winning
Always.
time. You seem to be not thrilled about it in the first place, the retelling of the story, but then it wound up being a blessing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Explain how it went from you went from one emotion to the next. Like you said, you had to go back and rewatch it, right, to get what it was really saying, as opposed to looking at one side of your life.
I was angry about it because I was like, well, why am I in the movie? And why my character is one of the main characters? I was just there for the 1 year, so what the hell is going on? So it just changed everything. And then on top of that, Pat Riley, Jenny Buss, and Magic put together this tour. For us to get together on a reunion last year. And I had lost my wife. I was down and out. And here Kareem and all these guys, man, come on over to Hawaii with us. You need to be with us for a minute. We need to say what we did wrong and what you did wrong. Let's get together. So we spent 7 days together, loving, eating breakfast, hanging out, talking about our bad times. Of course, they keep saying, we missed 7 because of you. 7 in a row. We played golf. We did so many wonderful things. So it was a love fest. And I just seen how powerful love is. And Magic was like in charge of all of the activities and stuff. And man, James Worthy, I got a chance to hang out with Byron Scott, all of my guys, Cooper and all of them. And the other Brewer from Ohio State, he was there, Jim Brewer. So a lot of our guys, all of the players were there, and the wives and everything. So Cookie and my wife went to the same high school, Magic's wife, at the same time. So that was another love, a wraparound again, So it was I've just been so blessed. My gosh, it's been such an awesome time for me to go through all of this in my life, and I'm healthy. I'm well. I've survived prostate cancer. This is my 9th year of survival of prostate cancer. It's just, man, I tell you, I am so blessed.
Couple quick questions, Spence, before we let you go.
Okay.
Who do you enjoy watching in today's NBA? Who do you like to watch? And is there anybody in the league today that reminds you of yourself?
Well, I still love watching LeBron James because he's this miracle that go out and play like a cotton picker for me.
Okay.
He plays hard. He don't take no time off unless he's like laid up. He's trained and working with his body all the time. Kevin Durant, who is always beating me up because he took my record from the Olympics. I had the record for 44 years, the most points. And every time I see him, it's like, you don't have the record anymore. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Because he broke it in 2012. I love Kevin. The guy that I like in terms of his game and my style was Giannis. I like his game. And now I'm very impressed with my Denver,
I was going to ask you about
the
that.
Denver Nuggets.
What do you
as
think
a
about the
team.
Nuggets?
I love the Nuggets, but they don't love me.
Well,
They don't love me, man. And I saved that franchise. I am the original MVP, but they act like I do not exist.
that's unfortunate.
So it happens, but on God's
Yes.
time, it will come right on time. So I know it will.
Right.
But that whole team is under the Spencer Haywood rule too. Now, is it Mike Malone,
Mike Malone.
the
Yes.
coach? He coached with my dad, who brought in all of the players for the Pistons. Will Robinson was the head scout and assistant to the general manager of Jack McCloskey. So they all worked together when he was a young boy, his dad and my dad. So it will come.
Absolutely. All things in time.
Yeah. I see you got your win yesterday too.
Oh, yeah.
The Broncos.
Finally. Yeah.
Finally.
Finally.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Spencer, real quick, you're talking about like how the Nuggets kind of, don't acknowledge the presence, your presence, the way they probably should. Last time, and you mentioned at the top of the show about like when you got into the Hall of Fame, and with the title of this podcast being the Hall of Famers, speak about how you feel now about it taking so long for the NBA to acknowledge you as a Hall of Famer.
Well,
you and I talked in that moment, but I want
we talked
we
about
did talk about
in-
that. So
in the
either
beginning,
I don't know if you feel the same way now, if you feel any different. How does that sit with you now?
I feel totally different now because I got a lot of gratitude. At that time, I had that anger because it took them 27 years. And I was on the Mandela kick saying it took them 27 years to deal with Mandela. So I'm like this guy. So I was in my Black Power movement. And so now I've calmed down and said, yeah, it happened not on my time and not on their time, but on God's time, which was right on time. Because if I had a went in the year before when I was really hurt and painful, I would have had to have the operation on my prostate to take it out. So I wouldn't have made it anyway. So,
And that's the same way you look in the situation with Denver. Like sometimes it's just like it's not on your time. You bring God and you
It's
bring
not on
God
my
into the
time.
conversation to realize that it's bigger than you, right?
it's bigger than me. It's much bigger than me. So I know that Denver will do the right thing because I did build a franchise. And when I left college to go into the ABA, the Denver team was folding. The whole ABA was folding. And they needed something to pull them up and some way to usurp the draft of the NBA. So I was that conduit. And I was their first MVP. I was their first All-Star. I was all there first. And so to kind of omit it as if it didn't exist, I understand because most people are working with the Nuggets today. They feel that I deserted them, not that Rainsby deserted me. Because this side of the story is very rarely told and is told today. So today is maybe a breakthrough for them to see and understand that, wait a minute, he didn't leave us.
I have a feeling one day
We left him.
I have a feeling one day your jersey will be hanging in the rafters. I believe that.
I hope so. Alex English is always talking that mess. He and Dan Issel always, man. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming because these are my guys,
Right.
So these are my dogs. So they always talking that mess, It's coming, and you better make sure you invite us. I'm like, oh man.
Well, great. Well, Spencer, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you for joining us and taking us on this amazing journey from Silver City, Mississippi, all the way to immortality and the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. You had an amazing journey. I wish you the best in the future, but thank you again.
Thank you. And thank
Oh,
you,
man.
Scoop. You were there from the
I know,
beginning.
hey man, be with you till it's only on my end. So we all together. It's all good.
All
It's
together,
all
bro.
together, man. I appreciate
Peace, my brother.
Well, sports fans, that's a wrap. We want to thank Spencer Haywood for taking us on an amazing journey with his amazing career. And we thank you for tuning in. And until the next time, remember HOFs, where legends never retire and greatness is the standard.